Hi, I'm Chiara Ocampo and welcome to the Orange Chair. This is where I sit down with the country's top thought leaders and influencers. They'll be sitting on this orange chair where I'll be unpacking their stories that will hopefully influence you, inspire you, and inform you. Now, let's meet our next guest. Our guest today is author, philanthropist, entrepreneur, and the chief of staff at the office of Senator Grace Poe. Let's all welcome to the Orange Chair, Dr. Brian Poe Llamanzares. Hi, Brian.
Hi. Good to see you. Thank you.
First things first, how are you?
Good. Extremely busy, but it's fine. This is a good slow down to start the week.
Yeah. Just to break the ice, for somebody who's very busy, what's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Look for coffee.
Look for coffee?
Yeah.
You don't check your phone?
No, I try to just go straight for the coffee so that when I reply to people, I'm generally happier.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you're clearly a go-getter, you're a businessman. You also work for your mom.
Yes.
You're also a public servant, and a lot of things we'll learn about later on. But for someone who's clearly a go-getter, let's backtrack a bit when you were growing up, how you grew up. So how was growing up, especially you come from a family who's very well known, but also how were you taught to be a go-getter basically?
Right. Well, growing up, we weren't really that well known in the States. So it was actually a really normal childhood, I guess. And I recently saw this YouTube reel about if you want your children to be successful later on in life, you force them to do chores when they're a kid because they learn to value themselves and value the work that they do. Sure enough, when I was growing up, I did a lot of chores. So I thank my dog for teaching me how to pick up his poop. And
That was your
very
responsibility.
humbling experiences as a kid. But honestly, I think most of the go-getter in me came later on in life. When I moved back to the Philippines and we kind of realized, well, I've realized where my roots were and my responsibility, I guess, to my community. That's when it kicked in. It was more of like, what can I do to give back? Or how can I grow so that I can help more people? And then that kind of became the driving force behind everything else that I did.
Yeah. My next question would be more about your education. You're a very well-educated human being.
Thank you.
Because you have so many certificates and degrees, and you also had exposure in Harvard, Stanford, Columbia. You recently got a degree from your doctorate from the University of Perpetual Health.
Yes.
So it's very interesting because you are making effort to actually enroll and learn via the formal education system. So I'm very curious why you decided to pursue higher studies and a lot of different certifications.
Right. Well, I feel like education is an ongoing process. You should never stop trying to learn, especially like new things, new fields. Certificates are a good way to like dip your feet in the water, but like higher education is a way to really hone your understanding of a particular field. And I've always been the youngest in most of the offices, businesses, or partnerships that I've had. So it's always been, I guess, kind of a chip on my shoulder that I do need to know more. I do need to prove myself in every position that I have. So that's why I constantly try to study more. But at the very root of it all is that in our family, we highly value education. On my dad's side of the family, which not a lot of people get to talk about, they're all professionals, doctors and lawyers. My grandmother has her doctorate in child psychology. My grandfather was one of the pioneers of ear, nose, and throat in the Philippines as a doctor. My grandparents before him were the longest serving BIR commissioner. And then, so on the financial side, and then lawyers. So on my dad's side, it was very heavy education. On my mom's side, yes, they were showbiz, but my grandfather, FPJ's biggest regret was that he never got to finish college. And that's why all of his siblings were able to finish college because he made sure that everyone got their education. So on both sides of the family, there's this huge premium on education. Therefore, the ongoing studies.
That's great because again, I think especially nowadays, a lot of people also think that sometimes you don't need education to succeed.
Right.
Right. Especially with the Steve Jobs of the world and Mark Zuckerberg. So it's very interesting to have somebody very young to have so many. You have so many degrees and certifications.
Thank you.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because I really want to push back against that narrative because for every Steve Jobs there is in the world, there's a Warren Buffett who
Right.
completed his higher education as well. You also have Jeff Bezos who also studied, right? And even if they went back to the Mark Zuckerberg narrative, a lot of his network was built when he went to Harvard,
Yeah.
right? So it's one of those things where it's up to you to make the most of your educational attainment. But at the end of the day, your education is the one thing people can't take from you.
Yeah.
So it's up to you. Do you want to bank on yourself?
Yeah. So let's go to the fun stuff about your hobbies.
I'm glad we've moved in this direction.
Actually, we're still gonna go to the serious stuff later,
Oh, man.
but it's
Okay.
just a little break from
Sure.
a while ago. So I heard you're a Marvel fan.
Yes, huge
Yes,
Marvel fan.
Specifically, Iron Man.
Yep, I didn't start out as an Iron Man fan, but then I slowly became an Iron Man fan. I guess with the way the character evolved and just the way that my experiences have also changed, I felt like it was just more of a fun character to read about.
Of course, as a fan, if you had one day with Tony Stark,
Yeah.
what would you ask Iron Man?
Man, what would I ask Iron Man? I'd probably ask him, of all the things that he ever did as Iron Man, what would he consider his biggest regret?
Ah.
Because for someone who's achieved so much, right, in his fictitious career,
Yeah.
it would be good to learn from his mistakes. Because that's basically how I've become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's just one mistake after another, just kind of leveling up each time. So if I can already learn from his biggest mistake,
Yeah.
that's one giant leap for me.
Yeah. I was about to say it's very entrepreneurial. That question. It's like, oh, this is a businessman thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I could ask some things about you being an entrepreneur because I saw in one of your interviews, very interesting actually. You come from, again, a well-known family, but not really a family of entrepreneurs.
No, yeah.
So how are you able to basically create your own business or start your own business? Where did that all come from?
Well, I mean, if we go really back to my roots, my first kind of foray into business was a food stall in Ateneo. So for all the Ateneans out there, if you remember JSEC, so we had a food stall in JSEC called Morning Glory. It was breakfast food, which is a staple. So like we were never the most popular booth, but we were also never under. So it was a good starting point. And then after that, I actually didn't want to go into business for a while because it was quite difficult. And then after the 16 elections, when my mom didn't make it, I had kind of like I guess a quarter life crisis kind of thing. Like, what do I really want to do? And a lot of my friends in the business community were like, well, Brian, why don't you try building a business around something that you have an interest in? So that's how I started Time Master Watches. And then I guess the rest is kind of history because like I fell in love with the process of building a company, looking for investors, marketing it, and just growing a brand. It's different when you build something and you know it's yours.
Yeah.
Right? And it feels like you've given something to the community one way or another, and you have control over something, whether it succeeds or fails. It's up to you. So yeah, I guess that's kind of how I got started with the whole thing.
Yeah. You also mentioned something about, well, you're into the business of watches and also I believe suits as well.
Yes.
And grooming.
Yep.
So it's very much also the fashion space. It's very interesting. And I wanted to ask, what's your advice, especially to men, to just amp up their personal style? And
dress every day like you feel like you're going to meet the most important person in your life that day. Because chances are, when the minute you step out the door, you don't really know what's going to happen that
Yeah.
day. Sure, you have a schedule or whatever, but you never know if you're going to meet a future business partner, run into a possible
Right.
deal. I can't tell you the number of times I've walked out of my condo and I thought, you know what, I'm too lazy to really get dressed or whatever. And then I end up meeting like someone that is super important for
Yeah.
a business deal that I have. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
wish I had just prepared a little bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess there are going to be days where you're going to be chill. But generally, if you want to improve your style, just think that you could always meet someone very important
Yeah.
that day.
What about things that you can add to your personal style?
Ah,
That really matter. Is it a watch? What's something to just amp up your style?
I'd say invest in a good watch. I'll give you some reasons. One, you can wear the same watch every day for the rest of your life, but if it's a really good watch, people will respect that, right? Two, because that watch that you wear every day for the rest of your life, even if it's just one watch, is a watch you can give to your son, your daughter, someone who
So
matters
pass it
to you, and pass it on. And they will feel the value of that watch because they saw you throughout your life with that watch and they know how important it is to you. Your business partners, and as shallow as it sounds, people will look at you and what you're wearing and assess you. And a lot of times I've been in meetings where where the conversation actually starts with, oh, that's a nice watch. Or, yeah, because you have to give people a talking piece, you know. But generally a watch is a good conversation starter.
All right. So buy Time Master.
My Time Master.
Time Master watch. It's online, I believe.
It is online, yes.
All right. Okay. So I have to ask you this question.
Yes.
A lot of girls are very interested to know the answer.
Yeah.
What would be your? Can you walk us through your dream date with your dream girl?
My dream date with my dream girl is, I'm so sorry, it's the most boring thing. Being able to spend an entire day with the person just at home. Like, wake up in the morning, have coffee with the person, eat a great breakfast, watch TV, talk about our day, maybe book a massage for two,
Yeah.
and then just go back to sleep. I mean, my schedule is so hectic that if I can take 24 hours and just spend it with the person that I really care about, that for me is the best day.
Wow, I love that. So who's your dream girl?
Well, someone who can keep up with my schedule.
All right, so Brian, just need to tell me the story behind the photo.
Okay.
So this is called basically behind the picture, behind the
Okay.
photo.
Okay.
So this photo, the first one.
Oh, yeah. This is one of my favorites. So my grandmother doesn't normally get to go around with us during the campaign because, of course, it's a bit difficult for her. But in 2019, she insisted that she be a part of the Pangasinan route because that's where my grandfather was from.
Right.
And when she was about to go on stage, she asked me to help her, and so it was probably one of the few events where I actually got to hold my grandmother's hand as we went back
That's
on
nice.
stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a really meaningful campaign event for me.
Very beautiful photo. Before I go to the next one, what's the best thing that you learned from your Lola?
Oh, she's the one who really made sure I was humble. Like, I mean, like, my parents would, like, remind me.
Yeah.
My Lola would make sure. So,
Yeah.
like, anytime she felt that my head was getting too big or anything, she would call me to the house and, lecture me. But she's also the one who would defend me if she ever felt like I was a pe in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best Lola memories. Okay. Next photo.
Yeah, me and my dad, we were at Columbia, passed by to visit me on campus. That was the time he took my uncle, my grandparents also. And it's then that we realized that I was the first from our family to make it to an Ivy League.
Oh,
Yeah, so they were really
wow.
proud to see me there.
Yeah.
And my uncle was the one that saying, like, do you realize that in our entire family you're the first to make it?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, it was this or I didn't get the scholarship from my parents.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's really funny because my parents were like, if you don't get into like an Ivy League school, we're not
Oh,
gonna pay
really?
for your masters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it was a
I mean, it
joke,
was, yeah,
but
yeah.
like I took it seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So this is your dad.
Yeah.
right?
So that's my dad.
What's the best memory you had, or you have with him?
Best memory I had with
Just
my
one.
dad. I have so many good memories with my dad, but I think foundational to who I am today. There was a time, if we go back to that what I mentioned about Time Master watches, the company had actually basically lost everything, and I went back to my dad and I said, I'm really sorry. I lost all the money because of the bad marketing campaign and whatever. I just need a little more capital so that I can keep the company going. And my dad said, why are you saying sorry? Like, I invested in you.
Yeah.
What you're learning now as a businessman is something that you can't learn in school. So I'm glad that you're having these experiences and know that the money didn't go to waste because you learned something, right?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And that became a core kind of memory, which became a part of who I am as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I love that instead of being disappointed, he
Yeah.
actually
He was supportive.
he was supportive. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Very nice photo. So next is this one. This is an old photo.
This is
Yeah.
this is an old photo. This is when I was starting out, and I didn't formally have a team yet.
Yeah.
But I got into racing, so like a lot of people who are into Drive to Survive. So when I like something,
Yeah.
I bandwagon really hard. And it's like when it comes to business or whatever, my mind just can't stop working around the idea. So for me, I wanted to race, but I knew on my own I couldn't really afford to do it. So what could I do to make it sustainable was to turn it into a business.
Ah, you did.
So what we did was we made a full racing team, and we got a bunch of sponsors to be able to put together the first Porsche design racing team in Asia.
Next is this one.
My PhD.
Yes.
Yeah, we're still wearing masks. It's actually really funny because I wasn't supposed to start my PhD. I finished my master's and I was like, I'm really tired of studying.
Yeah.
I think I'm okay. I think I've proven all that I need to prove. And then one day we had some family friends over at the office, and they were asking my mom to study at their school at Perpetual Help and to get higher education. My mom was like, I'm so sorry. I'm really busy. I'm not sure I'll be able to commit. But you could always get my son. And then I was like, wait, I don't know if I'll be able to commit. I'm helping you. And she's like, no. They were so accommodating. They were like, no. We'll make sure to include you in a class full of executives so that you'll be able to pace yourself for the studies. So I joined. I was just doing like one class every weekend or whatever. Didn't think I'd finish it for a long time. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
When the pandemic hit, I had all this time on my hands. And they were encouraging students to take online classes instead. So I overloaded every semester with as many subjects as allowable. And I was able to finish most of my subjects really quickly. What else were we doing during the pandemic? It was either that or relief operations. So I was able to finish all the classes quickly and then work on the dissertation the rest of the time. And that's why I was able to finish it. Like right after the pandemic, I was able to finish the program.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Do you like being called doctor?
I don't know. I feel a little uneasy about it because like it just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
So,
we are.
Normally,
Here,
when like I get an invitation for something and people haven't
Yeah.
really researched or anything,
Yeah.
they see me and they're like, "So where's Dr. Brian?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "That's me."
Yeah. I saw you want. It's Doc Chief.
It's
I saw
Doc Chief.
the-
Yes.
Yeah. It's a nice name. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And of course, the last photo I believe is this one.
Oh, yeah, socio-civic work. My work with FPJ Panday Bayanihan is probably my favorite. We've been doing this since my mom was elected,
Yeah.
and that was just formally as kind of like an organization. we've always been kind of giving back in one way or the other. It's just now that we have it in a more organized manner. I'll always make time for it because it's my opportunity to really touch base with the grassroots, figure out what's going on, and really give back in a real way. When you're working in legislation, there's a tendency to be very technical about everything. It's a policy making body. So it's one thing to read stuff in a book. It's another to be able to go down to the grassroots and give back and listen to the stories that they have about the things that they deal with on a daily basis. So FPJ Panday Bayanihan always brings us back to our roots as public servants, which is fitting because it's my grandfather, right? So
yeah. Now we move on to Rapid 7, where we ask Brian
Rapid 7.
7 fast or rapid questions in under 1 minute. You have to answer it in under 1 minute.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so is the timer ready? All right. Go-to coffee order.
Starbucks black with vanilla syrup.
Favorite song of all time.
Mr. Brightside.
Your pet peeve.
Scheduling errors.
Oh, ang panday or ang probinsyano.
Ang panday.
If you can be invisible for 1 day, what is the first thing you'll do?
For 1 day, probably go to work to see what everyone's up to.
The smartest person you know.
My mom.
In one word, how does the future look for Brian Poe Llamanzares?
Looks bright.
That's it. You did so well. That's under
20
1
seconds to spare.
Of course. Thank you, Brian, for being in the Orange Chair. We're so happy and excited that you're here today. Just an end note, what can you say to all the young Filipinos?
Well, to everyone that's out there, if you're watching this and you have any interest in going into business or entrepreneurship, pursue it. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. But at the end of the day, you are guaranteed to learn something that will help you later on in life.
Thank you, Brian, for being with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. With Brian's story, we learned to not be afraid in taking risks and to embrace all learning, whether it be in life or in business. Join us on the next episode of The Orange Chair.